Riley happens upon an ancient puzzle box that promises its possessor whatever they wish. However, the box and its keepers demand sacrifices to satiate an otherworldly being. In Belgrade, Serbia, Serena meets a man in an alleyway. She hands him a briefcase of money in exchange for the contents of a wooden box. Weeks later, in a mansion, Joey navigates a hedonistic party and starts a conversation with Serena. Joey asks about her client, Roland Voigt, and she thinks he would love to meet the young man. She tells Joey to enter the room at the end of the hall in 10 minutes. 10 minutes later, Joey walks into an expansive showroom with a glass ceiling and sees a mechanical puzzle box atop a pedestal. Suddenly, Voigt appears and encourages Joey to solve the puzzle. Joey twists pieces on the puzzle box and asks if he gets a prize if he solves it. The billionaire says he's the one who gets a reward, then smiles maliciously. Joey's about to finish, but a blade pops out and cuts him when he pushes the last piece into place. He yelps in pain and looks at an unbothered Voigt. Voigt locks Joey in the room by flipping a switch to close a gate. Joey feels dizzy and sees the puzzle box turn into a diamond configuration. Seconds later, a wall slides open and a metal chain hooks onto Joey's leg while Voigt places the puzzle back on the pedestal. Behind him, Joey is strung up by multiple chains, crying in pain. Voigt gets on his knees, looks to the glass ceiling, and asks for an audience with the Leviathan. 6 years later, Riley and Trevor make love in her room. He professes his love for her, which catches her off guard. Minutes later, the couple sees Matt, Riley's brother, along with his boyfriend, Colin, and their roommate, Nora, in the kitchen. Riley awkwardly introduces Trevor to the group, and he senses the discomfort and excuses himself to leave. After dinner, Matt expresses his dislike for Trevor because he's also recovering from substance abuse. He reminds his sister about the rent, and she asks him to give her time and promises to stop seeing Trevor. In Trevor's apartment, Riley confides how much she needs cash. He tells her about an abandoned warehouse he sees billionaires going in and out of, and asks if she wants to see what they can get from the last shipping container. That night, Riley and Trevor break into the warehouse, and he uses bolt cutters to open the shipping container. Inside, they find a safe with a lock combination. Minutes later, Riley opens the safe with a sledgehammer. Inside is a wooden box containing a cube mechanical puzzle box, and Riley asks Trevor if she can keep it. Later, Matt hears Riley stumble through the door, and they get into an argument when he sees her drunk. He tells her to leave the apartment, so she packs her things. Outside, Colin tells Riley to get back inside because Matt didn't mean what he said, but she continues to her car. Outside the playground, Riley throws her bag into her car and sees her stash of substances. She contemplates taking them, then spills the tablets on the ground. She's about to go to sleep in the car when she sees the puzzle box. Moments later, Riley picks up 3 tablets from the ground and ingests them, then takes the puzzle box to the playground. On the roundabout, she twists the corners of the puzzle to match the patterns. A blade pops out when she pushes the corners and, fortunately, doesn't cut her. The substances affect Riley and she lies down on the spinning roundabout. Suddenly, Riley sees a figure watching her. Then, the gasp, an extra-dimensional demonic being called a Cenobite, says the blade was meant for her. The priest holds the box and turns the centerpiece, and a circular wound appears on Riley's chest. The priest orders Riley to bring another sacrifice if they can't take her. The wound on Riley's chest opens and chains burst and embed into her brother's body. Suddenly, Matt jolts awake from a nightmare, gets dressed, and leaves to search for Riley. Minutes later, he finds Riley intoxicated on the roundabout. He grabs the box and cuts his palm on the blade. Then, he takes her by the restroom and tells her to stay there while he washes his wound. In the restroom, Matt gets dizzy and sees his reflection standing still. Then, blood fills the sink and the walls open into a dungeon-like hallway. Outside, the box absorbs Matt's blood and changes into a dodecagon. Afterward, Riley hears her brother's screams from the restroom. She searches for him, but he isn't in any of the stalls. Moments later, paramedics check Riley as the police speak to Colin and Nora. In the apartment, Colin tells Riley and Nora the police think the blood on the sink might not even be Matt's. Riley insists it is because he cut his hand on the puzzle. She admits to being on substances and seeing things, frustrating Colin. Shortly after, Riley drives to Trevor's apartment, where the couple makes love. In the middle of it, she sees the Chatterer and screams in fear. Minutes later, Riley tells her boyfriend how the box changed after cutting her brother, and they need to know more about it. Later that day, Riley and Trevor meet with Serena in a hospice. Riley says they found Serena's name on the deed to the warehouse. The woman says the container was meant to remain locked. She says Voigt was a sadistic man and warns the young lady not to continue her pursuit. Riley then shows Serena the puzzle box, saying her brother touched it, and the woman correctly guesses he's gone missing. Serena coughs, so Riley asks Trevor to get some water. After Trevor leaves, Serena grabs the puzzle to lock it. The women fight over it, but Riley unknowingly twists it, and the blade pops out, cutting Serena. When Trevor returns, Riley places the puzzle in her bag and they leave. In the car, Riley tosses her bag in the back seat, and the puzzle reconfigures again. Back in the hospice, Serena is taken to the infirmary, then the walls slide open. The affix walks past her, and the helpless woman runs into the dark hallway, where the Cenobites surround her. The Gasp approaches her, removes a pearl pin embedded in the Weeper's eye, and places it in Serena's mouth. In Trevor's apartment, Riley reads about Voight and looks at the puzzle box, now in the shape of a star. She sees a picture of Voight's mansion and finds out that the occult collector was presumed deceased 6 years ago. Outside, Trevor is on a phone call and appears distraught. When Trevor returns, he informs his girlfriend that Serena also went missing. Riley says before Voight disappeared, people around him also went missing. She believes the occult collector and the puzzle are connected to the disappearances. A few seconds later, Riley answers Colin's call, who says they have to figure out what to do together. When the call ends, Riley sees the puzzle missing and she chases Trevor to retrieve it. Trevor wants to get rid of it, but she wants to use it to get Matt back and feels betrayed for what he was about to do. The following day, Riley drives to Voight's estate, where the gate automatically opens. Outside the mansion, Riley is confused at the metal framework surrounding it. The main doors are locked, so she lets herself in the kitchen window. Inside, she finds the switch panel controlling the metal gates. She opens the main doors before exploring the rest of the house. In Voight's office, Riley sees illustrations of the Cenobites and Voight's notebook, where he's drawn all the puzzle's configurations next to their names. The configurations are Lament or Life, Lore or Knowledge, Laudorant or Love, Liminal or Sensation, Lazarus or Resurrection, and Leviathan or Power. That evening, Riley hears Matt, and she follows his voice to a basement room where he stands in front of a mirror. She hugs him while apologizing, and he tells her to bring him back. Then she sees their reflection, and all of Matt's skin has been flayed. She jumps back in fright and falls into Colin's arms. Colin, Trevor, and Nora are there to take her home, but she refuses. Colin asks to talk to her alone, so Nora takes Trevor to the bar. At the bar, Nora finds a switch panel and figures out which one turns the lights on while Trevor goes to the bathroom. She hits a switch that opens a secret door on the wall. In Voight's office, Riley shows Colin the notebook and says the box has 6 configurations, so it has 3 more. Whoever possesses the box after the last configuration is granted an audience with God and chooses an ultimate desire between life, knowledge, love, sensation, resurrection, and power. The determined girl plans to use resurrection to bring her brother back. Meanwhile, Nora enters the secret door, which closes once she's inside. Trevor hears her and she tells him to open the door using the panel behind the bar. In the office, Riley goes to grab it from her bag, but it's no longer inside. In the tunnel, someone is solving the puzzle. Moments later, the person stabs Nora with the puzzle's blade, and she runs away. Riley and Trevor hear Nora's screams and rush to join the others. In the tunnel, Nora sees the person coming toward her, and she screams before finding another door that lets her out. In the showroom, Nora feels dizzy when Riley and Colin find her. Colin removes the puzzle from her back, and he and Trevor help her out of the mansion. Riley sees the puzzle absorb Nora's blood, then grabs it and follows her friends. Behind the secret door, Voight watches everything that's happened. Outside, they laid Nora on the back of the van, and she says she hears bells. As they drive away, the road opens up and slides to reveal a doorway. The gate opens and they drive through. The puzzle starts changing and Riley drops it. The friends are confused at the changing turns in the road and are lost. As the couple argue, Nora sees the back of the van stretch into a tunnel. Suddenly, the mask and the Chatterer appear, so Nora runs the other way but encounters the priest. With nowhere to go, chains hook onto Nora's legs, shoulders, back, and abdomen. The chains pull tightly, suspending her in the air, groaning in pain. The priest removes a pin from her head and inserts it through Nora's neck. The priest removes the pin and the chains move, and Nora faces the Chatterer kneeling in front of her. As Nora's blood drips on the creature's face, the hook on her back stretches her flesh. In the front seat, Riley sees Nora and the Cenobites in the rearview mirror just as the skin on Nora's back peels off, but in the van, all that's left is her blood on the floor. In the commotion, Trevor loses focus on driving and the van drives into a ditch. Later, Trevor suggests they get Riley's car at the mansion, but Colin doesn't want to go back. While they argue, Riley grabs the puzzle and runs to a bridge to throw it into the water. On the bridge, the priest says Riley knows they can offer her Matt's resurrection. The Cenobite exposes the blade after sensing Riley's apprehension and cuts her hand. Now that they have her blood, she has to choose between herself or the 2 people she cares for. Moments later, Colin and Trevor find Riley and walk back to the mansion. She whispers to Colin that she won't offer him up. Suddenly, they see the priest, the ground opens up, and the Chatterer walks up from a dark labyrinth. Colin is frozen in fear while Riley and Trevor climb over the gate. The Chatterer walks past Colin and pushes the gate, injuring Trevor's leg and trapping the couple between the gate and the fence. The Cenobite grabs Trevor's arm and bites it, then Riley stabs the creature with the puzzle's blade. Seconds later, the Chatterer steps away from the gate. Then 6 hooked chains latch onto the Cenobite and rip its body apart. Trevor lets out a victorious scream as the box configures again. The three run to the mansion with the Cenobites tailing them. Riley closes the metal framework and keeps the creatures out. In the parlor, Riley and Colin tend to Trevor's wounds while Voight watches them. Later, in the showroom, Riley says Colin and Trevor have to leave because she won't sacrifice either of them, but Colin won't abandon her. Meanwhile, Voight sneaks up on Trevor, and Trevor apologizes that things got out of hand. Voight winces in pain from the contraption attached to his body. The machine pulls his nerves, keeping the billionaire in constant pain. Voight paid Trevor to take the box and feed it, and the injured man says that's what he did, and now the puzzle only has one more configuration to go through. The contraption turns, and Voight doubles over in agony and tells Trevor to finish the job. In the showroom, Riley solves the puzzle and holds it carefully, so she doesn't cut herself. She plans to use it on another Cenobite by luring one of them inside to trap and stab it. Later, they set Trevor near the switch panel before Riley exits the main doors and tells the creature to take her instead. The affix follows her into the mansion, and Trevor closes the metal gate, locking the creature inside. Seconds later, the Cenobite stands still as Riley approaches it. Suddenly, the affix gets loose of its binds and chases Riley. She bumps into a pillar and drops the puzzle before she runs into a room. Trevor closes the gate, which the creature gets caught in. It tries to reach for her, and the skin covering its face tears off to reveal eyeless, grotesque features. Then, Colin asks Riley where she dropped the puzzle, so he looks around but it isn't there. Suddenly, Voight slices Colin's chest with the puzzle's blade. Trevor explains he didn't have to stab Colin because the box would have taken the Cenobites, but the selfish billionaire doesn't care. Voight reveals he and Trevor know each other and paid him to do his bidding. Riley is in disbelief that her boyfriend willingly handed her the box. 6 years ago, Voight claimed his reward and chose sensation, but the Cenobites gave him the contraption that pulled on his nerves instead of unimaginable pleasure. He says the Cenobites' gifts are a trick no matter what you choose. In the present, the puzzle transforms to the last configuration, and Voight tells Trevor to open the metal grates on the ceiling. Riley tells Colin to run away because the Cenobites are coming for him. Voight tells Trevor to get him because he needs to remain close. Meanwhile, the blood in the puzzle floats to the ceiling. Then Voight demands an audience. Afterward, a monolith resembling the puzzle box lowers onto the mansion's top. In the basement room, the gasp follows Colin, but upstairs, Voight flips the switches to trap the creatures inside the mansion, keeping Colin out of the gasp's reach. In the showroom, Voight demands the priest to tell their god to take the contraption out of him, or he won't let them go. Meanwhile, Riley crawls beneath the affix, grabs the puzzle, and opens all the gates despite Voight's protests. In the basement room, the gasp approaches Colin and wires wrap around his body, cutting into his flesh. Trevor finds Colin and Riley arrives, having heard his cries. She tells the gasp she never chose Colin, so the creature asks if she'd like to sacrifice another. In the showroom, the priest explains their gifts can't be ungiven but can be exchanged. Voight believes anything is better than sensation and wishes for power. In the basement room, Trevor tries to convince Riley not to stab him. She plunges the point in his abdomen where he tries to grab it. Suddenly, the wires unspool from Colin's body. In the showroom, the contraption falls off Voight's body and the hole mends itself. He laughs joyfully, but then a heavy chain bursts through the ceiling and goes through his chest. Back in the basement, the gas wraps wires around Trevor's throat and arms. He struggles against the binds, but the wires peel his skin like a glove. In the showroom, Voight is pulled up into the sky by the chain. Meanwhile, Trevor drops down a hole to the depths of the underworld. Minutes later, Colin tells Riley to finish it, so she enters the showroom where the priest asks what reward she'd like. Suddenly, Riley sees her brother, who asks to be brought back. She refuses the reward because she knows her brother's gone and their rewards are a trick. The priest says she's chosen a life of regret, knowing everything she's done, and will live the rest of her life suffering from guilt. Riley chose the lament configuration indirectly, and the puzzle turns back into a cube. She places the puzzle on the floor, and when she stands back up, the Cenobites are gone. In the car, Colin says Riley made the right choice, but the look on her face is uncertain. In another realm, Voight lies on a platform clothless. Then the skin from his palms, legs, and torso peels off. Large pearl pins are embedded into different points on his body. The skin on the sides of his mouth peels away to reveal his teeth, and the whites of his eyes turn black. In his pursuit of power, the Cenobites have rewarded him by turning him into one of them.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this, turn on notifications and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.